And hello, everybody, and welcome to Trenton 365. I'm Jacque Howard, your host. And my cat, Tiger, who is starting to make these appearances all the time. Hold on, bro. So Cat Tiger is hanging out. But today is one of those awesome times. Although we're not together, we are together in spirit. But I got a chance to sit down with my friends from REJS Entertainment, Eric Thomas, Rich Jackson, James Freeman, and our man John Floyd, who's not feeling well. Big up to you, friend. But we're going to be talking to you about some of the things that have been going on within us individually within the pandemic and the jazz scene and what's going on as far as in central New Jersey. But I want you to all know in the listening and viewing audience, you can always stay abreast to what's happening with REJS Entertainment by going to the website REJSJazz.com. So now I'm going to bring on Eric Thomas. Eric is the one who has been pretty much the glue to REJS and has brought us all together. So Eric, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Fantastic. And then we're going to have Rich Jackson and James Freeman. Let's have you guys unmute all yourselves. We're going to bring you on real quick and just have everybody get a chance to see you all. But Eric, I'd like for you to start it off and talk about how this synergy, this whole idea of REJS Entertainment started many, many years ago with that performance down at the Big Easy.
It started with my discovery of violinist Scott Texier. I had Noel Pointer, the great violinist, had passed away, and I knew him during the time I lived in New York, and I was crushed, and I was new to YouTube, and so I know YouTube was showing video clips of different artists, and so I was looking at Noel Pointer, see if I can find any video footage of him, and I ran across Scott Texier, and I never heard of him, didn't have no clue who he was. But the clip that I saw of him, he was 19 years old at the time, and his brother Tony. To make a long story short, when I found out that Scott was here in the United States on an artist visa, struggling, I went over there with my friend Mitch Danzy and met him. Very friendly, enormous talent, as he is well known now. But at the time, not too many people knew him, and Scott wasn't that well known to the people that he knows now. But anyway, I had him come to my school. Where I asked him after we exchanged information, would you come to my school and perform? He did. I first didn't think he would, I didn't think he would do it, and he did. And then I found out that Uglabala, who used to have a little restaurant off of Hermitage, had opened up a place called the Big Easy, of course, named after New Orleans. His nephew, Nasir Wyatt, was an actor, a good actor too, in fact. He was helping me with a play production for some of my students based about a play that they wrote. And he told me that Global had opened up the Big Easy, and he said they were looking for entertainment. And when I found out, me and Scott had already exchanged numbers, became friends. I had already did help Jacque Ivy. Is it Jacque Ivy? Jacque Ivy's last name Ivy or Dent? Excuse my brain freeze right now. But Jacque at the conservatory was doing a fundraiser for the conservatory in Trenton. So she had Dan Spora, and I got Scott, and I invited James to that. I don't know if Rich was there, but James showed up. And that was the extent of that. And I enjoyed getting Scott together, putting together a poster, what have you. So, but I never thought about becoming a promoter of any kind. And then I had, when Nasir Wyatt told me that his uncle was looking for entertainment, I went down there because Scott said he would be open to do it again. So I went down there, I had my cell phone, had my YouTube geared to Scott. He liked what he heard. He said, yeah, you want to do something here? I said, sure. And as I was doing it, it started to become a little bit more than a one-man show, because when I did it at the conservatory, I just called Scott up. They already had the sound, everything else done. That's all I do was make the connection. But when the Big Easy came, I had to learn about, I gotta get sound equipment. I started learning about backline and stuff like that. And I wasn't even on social media at the time. I wasn't on Facebook or anything. So I had to join social media. And I said, man, this is getting a little bit too much. Who loves jazz as much as I do? And of course, my dearest friends, Rich and James, they love it as much as I do. And I asked Rich and James, first I had to let them know who Scott was. Actually, I already knew Scott was at the conservatory. So they were down. And at the time we were called R.E.J. We started, well, actually, I'm getting jumping ahead. The show was a hit. I had contacted a friend named Shelton Miner because I wanted to videotape it. Um, it was a smash. It was so good that Ugabala asked us, can we do another one? And I asked James and Rich, you down for doing this again? And they were. And then I knew about Shami. I met Shami at a restaurant up in New Brunswick called Makeda's. Rich was with me with that. And I met her there. And then she was our second artist. And she had E.J. Strickland and Greg August on bass. E.J. Strickland plays drums. And we recorded that too. And nice response. Um, we enjoyed it. James had a natural business sense. James said, Eric, we need to know where the people are coming from, how they're hearing about us. So if we're going to do this, we got to know where our advertising fund should go. So James thought about getting cards, how to hear about us, and getting some feedback on what they thought about the event. Rich did everything in advance, make sure that everything was set before James and I got out of school because we were still teachers. And Rich had a little more flexibility. And then we saw how well you speak and how well you're in front of the microphone. So we approached you. And that's how we got you. Wow.
Well, I want to bring on Rich Jackson and James Freeman, ask them both to unmute themselves. And while they come on and share about, their perspectives and how this all came together, Eric, the way you summarized Regis, I'm going back and I'm in memory and I'm thinking about how I was over at X7A, Scott Miller's place, when you had called and you were looking for some sound equipment. And then you and I talked on the phone and I'm like, is this Eric from the choir? And you're like, yeah, is this Jacque? And then it was like, oh yeah, okay. Then we went over to the Big Easy and as they say, it's the rest of that is history. But I know working with James and Rich and also John, who's not with us, and big shout out to John Floyd, who also makes up the REJS team, as well as all the other folks who are there giving us time, assisting us, our sound, our lighting, as well as the people who are doing the administrative things and taking care of the door and ticket sales and all those things. Big shout out to the whole team. But I want to bring back and talk about this whole idea of how this kind of all came together and we're all playing different parts in it. And I know, Rich, like one thing that you're really passionate about is documenting it via photograph and also handling the website and so forth. So if you could unmute yourself and speak a little bit to what you're doing with REJS, and then James, I'll have you jump in with that as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you clear, Rich.
Yeah, how you guys doing? Hopefully everybody's well. Been a little while. Good to see you. Yeah, you got a beard, man?
Yo, yeah, I got a beard and I got a little bit of hair on my head too. We'll have to talk about that at another time.
COVID. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope everybody's doing good. I'm doing well. REJS is something just came out of the sky. And I've always been down for music. Started back in the R&B days and picked up some other different genres of music through my school years. But I really wasn't introduced to jazz until college. A friend of mine from Atlantic City, he brought by a couple Coltrane and some music like that, Turntine. I was like, this is nice stuff, but I'd never really heard it before, other than my uncle. He played some progressive stuff back in the day. But then I met Eric, and we liked some of the same music back in the day. from back in the day, R&B, and then he introduced me to some other jazz artists. One was Nelson Mandel. I really was taken by that sound that he had. But once we jumped into becoming a group, we made a name. REJS stands for the beginning of each one of our names, and then we had some other great ideas to kind of push forward the promotion of it all. So I'm kind of a back in the corner type of dude, and I like to sit back and watch stuff. And then Eric says, well, we're all in this together. And even like right now, I would really like to not have that video on there, but it's on, it's okay. But I decided I would take the role of being a stage manager, kind of setting things up so that we could have, the stage, make it look pretty decent, try to figure out how to organize the chairs and the tables for the guests that we have and the patrons. And then it just kind of escalated from there. We eventually went out and got our own stages. So I went up north and found a place that was renting stages. And since I had the truck, I started off with maybe 1 or 2 pieces of stage and ended up with 4 or 5, And we've really grown over the years. Eric said to me a couple months ago, I guess we were just talking on the phone, I'm surprised at the things we actually accomplished. And that's for real. We came a long way, just this group. So I wanted to get a little bit more involved in it. So I got into doing the webpage. And I think James had the idea, we got to reach out to some people. I said, well, let's try a website. I got that started, and then I was like, pulling my hair out with the thing. But I said, this is the way to reach some people. So we got a website, and then from the website we were able to take orders of tickets, and it really started to fall into place. And then the COVID came and everything kind of crashed. But we could pick that up again. Hopefully, we put our minds together and continue this venture. The other thing I did was we had something which was very creative. I think James was the spearhead for it. A youth spotlight, which is at the intermission of our shows. We would have an upcoming talented young artist come and play, and so we all kind of reached out to whoever we knew, and I landed maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 people that I knew. So then I felt like I was promoting something, you know what I mean? So I kind of, got a little deeper into it then, But it's really been a nice road. I don't even know how many years we've been doing this, 5, 6, 7 or something like that. And like you said, Jacque, I try to document as much as I can. I took a lot of pictures, some videos, not the best, but it's documented. I've also created a portfolio of, some of our performances and, different contracts that we were kind of trying to get together. I've gone down to the States so that we could become, more legitimate, with our 301 and so forth. But we're all set to go. We just have to, hopefully this whole COVID thing kind of opens up, or shuts down, I should say, so that we can get back to promoting for the people. I mean, we got a lot of followers over the years.
Well, Rich, I appreciate you saying that, and also for sharing, in detail, like your perspective. And I know for folks who it's not their natural thing to come out out front and be on camera. I know sometimes it can be difficult, but I'll tell you what, man, you always do a good job at it. And I appreciate you taking the time. And I know the fans of Regis and the Regis team. We really appreciate how you've handled the website, watching it progress over the years with the content getting better, also with the technology of being able to order tickets and things like that. A lot of folks don't know that that stuff takes work. It takes time. And a lot of times it goes it's that unthankful work, but we recognize it. James Freeman, one of the other members of Regis, who's also an educator. But your name was brought up, by Eric and Rich, and of course I know I could too, about some of the things that you've been doing with Regis. But I want to make sure that we touch on the importance of our communication, not just with the social media, but the communication with the artists and the artist managers and the artists' team. And a lot of that, you work on doing that. So can you introduce yourself and then just touch a little bit on that perspective of the business and how important that is?
Sure. I'm James Freeman. And this is why I hang with you guys, because you make me sound so good. Like, you give me credit for doing all these things and coming up with all these ideas. It's like, yes, I'm great. I'm just trying to hang in there with you guys and make this thing grow, and be as good as it can be. Rich, our first 3 shows were in 2013.
Wow.
So we had 7 years down, completed until last year. We had to take the year off, obviously, but time flies. But yeah, I originally, like, Eric was kind of he's our founder, he's our guy. He was the one reaching out, contacting people, finding the talent. And we kind of figured that's our niche, these up and coming talents like Scott Tixier that nobody knows about but should. Mm-hmm. So, and I just 1 year, we kind of decided to flip flop things a little bit and change responsibilities. So I really enjoyed, like, being the guy that was reaching out to these artists and, contacting them, trying to set up these shows. It's good for all of us to do different things, to take charge of different parts of what's going on, so that we just get to know the business as a whole, and that we can all move together, and just build together. So it was cool, and I'm really a shy dude, but it kind of brought me out of my shell. Trust me, I was painfully shy in high school, and to the point where I'm like, you know what, I have to really, like, shake this, because I'm not going to enjoy my life if I'm so shy about everything all the time. And I became a teacher. Who would have thought it? But, like, if you'd have seen me, my very first speech in effective speaking class as a 17-year-old freshman in college, oh my God, I was terrified to do a 3-minute speech. And now I can stand out in front of people and talk and, be comfortable. It's all about just being confident in who you are and not worrying about what people think of you, but just enjoy life, So.
I want to bring Eric on as well, and take turns and jump in here, everybody. And I know that during COVID, it's been very difficult for a lot of people just in general, but in particular, performing artists who make their living by performing out. And there are some that get the opportunity to live stream or do studio work or have enough income coming in from, residual income from previous performances, but a lot of artists aren't. I know that we've been in contact with artists in our network, assisting them the way that we can. But at the same time, what else have you all been hearing about, some of the artists in our camp and what's been going on with them in COVID?
Many of the artists are struggling. Certain well-known jazz clubs in New York had to shut down. Some may never come back, even though in today's news that Broadway may come back later. If Broadway comes back, so should be the ability to dine and open up these other famous jazz venues in New York. But the artists have been struggling. Some of them made their living, a lot from performing. I'll give you an example of, I'm not sure personally what her struggles are, but I know she's appreciative, and so am I, of what she's doing for me. What I'm leading up to is Trenton, who's performed for some of our headliners and has been a headliner herself. Phenomenal percussionist, arranger. She's teaching 3 of my students drums online. I'm sponsoring, I'm paying for it, but I know it's helping her. She gave me a discount, thank God, because I know she's worth more than what she's charging me. But I gave her 3 talented students that once we get up and operating again, I like to put them in our Rising Star Spotlight, which James started, because they're phenomenal. Because I'm seeing what she's doing with them, and I'm just like blown away. And they're 9 and 10-year-olds. You think little Asmar is going on bass? I have a young lady named London Bennett. London is learning from R.E.A.C.H. I've taught London how to play the cajon, a couple other things. But London's taking what R.E.A.C.H. has done with sticks on the cajon, and I work with them every Wednesday, her and a bunch of other students on Wednesday online. And when I saw her do that, I stopped. I said, I was like, oh, do that again? So any way possible, I can help an artist with their exposure, even if they can't gig. Vibrance is a arts website what I teamed us up with to help artists in interviews, like Robin Clabby, who's an awesome saxophone player and singer. And let me see, Shami was interviewed, and they take donations. Um, but they're all, Jacque, they're all, can't do but so much, because when the venues can limit how much money an artist, they can have an audience. I'm talking about before the vaccines were easily distributed or distributed throughout the general public. Um, for instance, Birdland had a GoFundMe campaign because they were suffering, and they had artists trying to perform for them to help them raise money so they can stay open. Um, so it's been rough for the artists in our camp. If you hear Shami talk about it, she fortunately is a teacher, and she's able to extract an income from that. But Scott is teaching out in Texas. He's doing okay. Tony Texier is back home, and he's touring in that area. But they weren't making any money here because the United States was shutting down a lot of areas, and if areas were open, they weren't following CDC protocols. So nobody wanted to take that risk.
Now, unfortunately, 30 minutes is definitely not enough time to get a lot of information out. But I know that Regis is going to be sharing lots of information about the artists that we're working with. And when things open up, we're going to get back into the flow of things. But for those who are jazz appreciators, or people who want to support, local jazz artists, et cetera, what kind of things would you suggest that they do?
To me, Jacque, or anyone of us?
To whomever. James, why don't you jump in on that?
I mean, one thing that's risen a lot is these online concerts. I know there are some websites or like bands in town that are like distributors of tickets and things like that have allowed a lot of artists to monetize concert performances or just like teachings. They might be just having a discussion about what their technique is and on a particular instrument or something like that. So that's something that's come about a lot, which is something that we may try to delve into, to help the artists with online concerts.
Mhm. Now, I know that we have always been very particular about the type of performance that we put on and what we sponsor. Not only is the talent literally international A+ talent that has performed with some of the largest pop stars on the planet, but they also get something special at our events. You know, generally it's in a location where we have some food, et cetera, and the rising stars. We got just a couple of minutes left. If anybody would want to jump in and just talk a little bit about, you know, what our performance is like that we produce through REJS Jazz.
I'll take it. I mean, we try to. Eric was spearheaded this as far as like bringing a lot of artwork and things to kind of decorate the facility, the venue that we're in, to try to just give it that jazz feel. And just you come in, we're gonna kind of have some music playing, perhaps of some of our artists, REJS artists, and then you'll come in, you'll get a chance to dine, and then we'll get the show started. We have 2 sets for our headliner, and in between those 2 sets, we'll take a break. We'll feed our headliner, and we'll allow our Rising Star Spotlight to take place, where we have young artists, whether they're elementary school age, middle school, high school, or young adult. They come, do their thing. They get to perform for probably 15 to 20 minutes, and oftentimes the headliner kind of gets involved with it, which is definitely a thrill for us and for definitely the particular, you know, young artists. And then we get back, second set, finish it up, and you know, we have you marvelously emceeing. So before, during, middle, after, you're always, you know, encouraging the crowd to be involved, to purchase merchandise, to encourage the youth as they perform, and so it's a good time.
Thank you so much, man, for the kind words. Yeah, Eric, jump in.
Yeah, real quick, James nailed just about everything. But the other thing is that one summer, James and I were hitting like every New York jazz club that was pretty popular for one reason or another. And we were taking notes. We were looking at how the people are sitting. Is it comfortable for them? How much space do the artists have on the stage? What's the walls like? And we did our homework. So when we had the freedom to, like, say, to put, like James talked about, artwork, you know, putting posters up and stuff like that. Sorry, you know, that sort of thing. We also looked at the audience, see what the audience, how the audience looked at our shows from their perspective. I would look at the audience. If everybody's paying the same amount of money and it's a first come, first serve situation, we want to make sure that no matter where you sit, that you have a good visual of the artist. So when Rich got the platform, there was no such thing as a bad seat, where as established, so regardless of the same ticket price, you still had a good view of the artist. Then we put the visuals in the background by Teddy Collette. Tawana would put decorations on tables, bring the lights down, make it intimate. We would have information about the artists on the table. You don't see that at other clubs. So James and I, that one summer, we wanted to set ourselves apart. And the other thing, what you do, right before that second set, I used to get so many compliments about your interview before it was always start that second set. They said,
the interview, yes.
Yeah, they say they don't see that anywhere.
Wow.
And that you go out there and you do that short interview, they love that. And they feel like they're connected to the artist. That one time you would, with all the women, they love that. And then at James' end of the show, one thing when I look at department store, and Jacque, you know about retail, when we want to help the artists sell their merchandise, I'll create, or Paola will create a poster and that will draw their eyes as people come in. It's the first thing. Brandy Younger's mom asked, "Can I have that poster that y'all made for flyers?" You know,
Right.
we got, but we look at every aspect of what the audience is going to get, what the artist is going to see, and if we have it in our budget, we will shoot a video and do a DVD of it. We take every component of the musical experience of our artists and from our audience at heart, and we try to make it a memorable experience and one that they'll tell others and come back. Because as James and Rich said, we come a long way. As I was, right before I came on air with you guys, I was talking to some students from TCC, and I was explaining to what we did. And I was pulling out Mark Whitfield, I was pulling out Rudy, and then I looked at Rich's portfolio, I looked at our posters. I said, man, we did a lot. You know, and there's a time where we thought about not doing it. But I'm gonna say this to all three of you, and John included. I am grateful for you guys not giving up on what I wanted to do and make it your own as well, because I asked a lot of you, and I tell people on the other occasion, I said, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be able to work with you guys, because I could not have done this or started this and maintained it and got it better if it wasn't for each one of you, and every last one of you are important to what we're doing. And that's why we're going to grow in September, because I got a dynamite concept that I want to share with you, but I don't want nobody else to hear it right now.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to end up, because unfortunately we got to pay the bills. So I got a time limit on this. And unfortunately, I won't be able to give you guys each a time to say goodbye until next time individually. But I love you guys all. I can't wait to get back to sitting down with you in person and expanding what Regis Jazz is doing. This is some fantastic stuff that's happening. And I'm really digging Scott and Tony and Shami and Greg August and everyone that's doing things, especially around the Grammy time as well. So I got to jump off now. But until then, folks, you've been listening and watching the Trenton 365 show, brought to you first by WIMG 1300 and WPHY, but you can always stay connected on any of the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Trenton 365. And until we meet again, Jacque Howard here, saying it's always about justice, peace, and humility.